YouTube, thank you for joining me once again. I got a little idea for a video I've been cooking up in my measly little pea brain for you, and I thought I would shoot it today. Well, tonight. Honestly, about 2 or 3 hours ago, I should have just drank my chocolate milk and headed straight to bed, but somehow I've just been staying up, fucking around, looking at the internet, instead of going to sleep. So, my brain is a little deprived of nutrients and energy, and my brain is pretty empty after a whole week of expounding about metal every single day to you guys. I hope you've been enjoying a week's worth of a Brainsmasher video every single day. If weather permits tomorrow, I think I'm going to go for an epic fucking hike and fuck off to the YouTube all day long. So you'll have this video tomorrow to enjoy and tide you over until I get another brilliant idea off the top of my stupid skull. So today's topic, and this is something I've been kind of just working on in my head for a week or so, is albums that are just kind of forgotten a little bit. Albums maybe you didn't know were good. Albums that are kind of overshadowed by other albums within the band's discography. Just stuff that I think is worth highlighting, and that's really just like my bread and butter. What I love doing most is talking about albums that people don't ordinarily think of as go-tos. And that's kind of where I dwell with a lot of my stuff, and for some reason I always avoid the big, obvious classic albums, and lately I've been enjoying, like I said, a lot of the death metal things that I kind of hide in the corners from, and enjoying them. But so I've got a stack of 10 CDs picked out here, nothing really special to show off collector-wise all that much, but albums that deserve your fucking attention and deserve some recognition, be pulled off the shelves, dusted off, and remembered for the great albums that they still are. So let's start off with Dark Angel, Time Does Not Heal. I don't know why this is so overshadowed by other albums in the discography, like Leave Scars, and obviously Darkness Descends is a killer banger debut. And a lot of people I feel like are maybe turned off by the vocals on here by Ron Reinhardt, and I agree. There's something else. There's some thrash metal vocals that maybe should have never been put to tape. But regardless, the music, the songwriting, the technicality is so mind-blowing that it makes the vocals, it almost sells the vocals for me anyways, in a way that I find I'm singing along, I'm pumping my fists, because I don't know how to play air guitar to it. But Gene Hoglan was a big part of why this album was so good, as far as I understand. Since I met the man, he signed my copy of Time Does Not Heal. I bought this album originally on cassette in a church for 10 cents back in 01 or 02 or something like that, and man, that day I bought like a handful of like 15 cassettes. Some of them were fucking garbage, like Helix, Y&T, Malice, shit like that, but some of them also was like Dark Angel and Halloween's Keeper of the Seven Keys, Exodus, Fabulous Disaster, stuff that I would maybe never have even heard of unless I had just bought every single metal tape at this church sale. So I look back fondly upon that memory. Anyways, this album is super technical, tons of just guitar trade-off wankery going on. It's all serves the purpose of amazing songwriting. Look at that cool-ass motherfucker right there. I'd probably let that guy kiss my mom. What a stud muffin. Like I control who kisses my mom. Tons of lyrics. There is so many words shoved in every single corner of this album by Ron fucking Reinhardt. Anyways, check this out. It's such a fucking underrated classic technical thrash metal record. The only thing that's wrong with it is that this band recorded other albums that are a lot more unchained and just completely unwieldy. And this is a lot more focused, a lot more technical. I feel at times there's Carcass influence maybe in here, or just maybe just kind of coincidentally sounds a lot like the really big Carcass riffs. But it's such an indelible fucking listen. Yeah. So this, like, genre-wise, this pile is all over the fucking place, and I kind of like that about it. I hope this video turns out to your liking and to mine, more importantly. So next we've got Demons and Wizards. This is their self-titled debut from 1999. First of all, let's get this off the bat. I think Iced Earth is really boring. Surprising that John Schaefer can write amazing songs in Demons and Wizards. And Hansi Kirsch of Blind Guardian, one of my absolute favorite metal singers. I think the man is immensely fucking talented. So this is just like a one-off kind of fucking around, see what happens kind of album for them. But I kind of like this a lot more than most Blind Guardian albums. I really like Phantom of the Opera by Blind Guardian, and a couple of the other ones, obviously, Nightfall and Middle Earth, etc. But man, when it comes to something like power metal, there's only a couple albums that I really reach for, and it's like Look At You Really, Demons and Wizards, kind of like a little bit of Rhapsody here and there, but that's really about as far as I go with power metal. So this is just such an excellent, memorable record. I was going to look and see who played drums on this, if it was Mark Praetor. I guess I don't know who that is, but killer album. Lots of just super sing-along, epic, soaring choruses all over the place. Lots of nice acoustic interludes. It's just a real sort of fantasy-based, easy-listening power metal record that just glues itself to every inch of your brain the second you lay ears upon it, I guess. Next is Theis Serpent with the EP, 4-song EP, 22 minutes in length, entitled Death. How clever of an album title. So Theis Serpent is a band I kind of struggle with. I have all of their records in an attempt to figure out what I think about them. This is my most recent acquisition of theirs, and I honestly haven't really been aware of it for very long, but it came out in 2000. So it's 17 years old, and it's the last thing they ever did, and it seems like I wish they would have done a full length in this style, but they've turned their back on the kind of gloomy grim sort of style. Black metal and gloomy grim, the worst band name I've ever heard, but that style I think really influenced Theis Serpent, and they were kind of like incestuous bands. Anyways, this is very, very, very different, and definitely not much of a cover to look at. Definitely a dark metal record, and by dark metal I mean specifically bands like Rapture and their album Futile, or really isn't much else that I listen to in that style, like Insomnium I don't really listen to, but so that's not really a very educated comparison. But check this out if that sounds interesting to you. Mid-paced, super emotive. It's got those sort of kind of twinging harmonies that make you just kind of want to curl your chin into your shoulder like The Cure does, and just kind of go, oh, poor me, I'm listening to sad songs about death and stuff. Next we've got Celestia with Apparitia, Sumptuous, Spectre. French black metal, super lo-fi. This came out on Full Moon Productions sometime a long time ago, before you were born. No, I'm kidding. I don't know, maybe 2000, 2004, 3, somewhere around there. Anyways, kind of like romantic. Well, I can't believe I'm describing black metal as such. Romantic, necrotic kind of black metal. Kind of like the Theis Serpent. It's got those kind of tweening harmonies, those sparkly sort of harmonies that just make you kind of think of introspective kind of music, I guess. I'm not really sure how to put this more eloquently. Obviously, I'm out of my element here, and I should have done this video tomorrow after I woke up and was fresh from a cup of coffee, so you're getting me at my half best, which is still pretty fucking good, I would say. I love the vocals in this band, but yeah, it's just super lo-fi. It's incredible how they can pull off such passionate songwriting with such little tools under their belt, but I think the songwriting here is really what's on showcase. It's got those kind of verse, chorus, verse sort of simple song structures that make it really listenable and make you kind of think, oh man, I can't wait for that next riff to come up again because I liked it the last time I heard it. That kind of thing. Great fucking record. They did a couple other releases, Cave Full of Bats, and I think they did like a follow-up reunion album too that was pretty good, but I always reach for Apparitia, Sumptuous, Spectre. And what a sumptuous Spectre it is. Next is an album I would talk about every single day if I had the chance to. Niden Division 187's Impergium. There's a chance I may have talked to you about this album on my channel before, but hey, let's do it again. So this came out on Necropolis in 1997. Members of a Canorous Quintet, Dawn, Thy Primordial, I'm not sure. I think that covers everybody. Doing something a little bit different. They, you know, they're in their respective other bands. They all were just being as melodic as humanly possible. And with this album, they wanted to create something that was a lot more industrial, cold, sort of frighteningly horror themed. Not in like a bolt thrower sense, but like, I don't know, apocalyptic sort of Holocaust sort of scenarios that they are painting for you with their style. So Jukka Peterson from the later Dawn records blasts the shit out of his kit on this album, and Leo Pignon plays like, it's almost like, I say this a lot, like Swedish bands who are trying to do something maybe a little bit more chunky or industrial or brutal, but they have this inescapable, inalienable sense of melody, and I just love that about bands like this, where they're trying something new, but they just can't not write memorable, melodic, super indelible riffs. So that's Impergium by Division 187. Hope you like it, because I fucking do. Also, the vocals on this by Henka Forsa is fucking some of the best vocals I've ever heard. We are halfway through. So next, Edge of Sanity's Infernal. I don't really hear a lot of people, first of all, talk about Edge of Sanity very much. I don't know if that's just one of those bands that never really kind of made it into the 2000s as successfully as other bands have, or what. But Edge of Sanity was a band I feel like they always were able to do whatever the fuck they wanted to do. And so this one came out after Unorthodox, if I'm not mistaken, in '97. And this is my first, actually, album that I heard by Edge of Sanity. And what I really like about it back then, and still do, is how it's just a really simplistic songwriting style. The artwork on this is terrible, of course. It's my fucking favorite albums are. Anyways, it was recorded in the studios, and I want to say the lineup of Edge of Sanity was a little kind of skeleton crew on this one, so it seems a little bit more, have a little bit more breathing room and a lot more accessibility than other Edge of Sanity albums, and it's also a lot less experimental, and I feel like Dan Swano's songwriting ability just shines so well in this album. The song, is it Losing Myself, where all the clean vocals through that, such a memorable song. It almost kind of reminds me of like something Danzig would do if he wasn't a fucking douchebag, I guess. I don't know, that's a really long-reaching comparison to make. But check this album out, it's Infernal, Edge of Sanity. Fucking love that album. It's been with me since the dawn of my metal life.
I'm closing down. I expect the hopelessness again tonight. And even though it's killing me, I can't remember what I'm missing, but it might be you.
Next, I picked out Green Carnation with Light of Day, Day of Darkness. Sophomore release. What happened, I guess, what started this band was that Short, who played bass in Emperor, and also Carpathian Forest, and something, Blood Red Throne, I didn't give a shit about that band. But he formed this band with the guitar player who played on In the Woods' Omnio. This came out on, I don't know, was it Century Media? No, The End Records, probably 2002 or so. And I really think In the Woods' Omnio is a fantastic fucking album. Most people, I think of Heart of Ages as their magnum opus, but I think Omnio kind of edges it out a little bit. Anyways, this is kind of an experimental thing, and this is one of those albums, so romantic, one of those albums that is indicative of the time where the 90s bands were trying to kind of find their style either in new projects or in their old bands, and kind of reaching out for modern indie. And so this is kind of experimental. It's one long song. It's an hour-long album, and the entire song doesn't stop ever. There's tons of lush instrumentation. In fact, it's really greatly produced for how much interesting instrumentation and songwriting styles there are going on with it. But I feel like a lot of people don't talk about this band as much as they should be, at least this album in particular. I haven't really toyed around with much of their other albums, because when I want to listen to them, I listen to this album every time. I want to say I used to fuck with their first album maybe, and it's also pretty good. Next, how about Gehenna's Admiron Black? Do you guys know how great this album is? Gehenna are a band I think were kind of hit and miss, and on a good day I'm in a mood for some of their early stuff. But this album finds them playing with a new drummer. And I think this is the only album that he ever did play on. I think he also played on that Deadlights EP also. But this album, again, kind of came out in 98, so they were kind of moving away from that sort of like gothic Norwegian traditional sort of vampiric style of black metal and being really ferocious. The elements that I liked about this album were that style-wise, they're trying to be more ferocious. The drummer is just a fucking beast of a drummer, and I can't believe he's never played on other notable records. And the production on this is so amazing. The bass tonality gives everything just such a fucking oomph to it. So this has other traditional members, Sanrab, Dolgar, all the dudes. I think it even has the lady on the keyboards. But I think all these songs are pretty much a lot more geared towards songs about murder and fucking suicide and just guns and tanks and stuff like that. Seed of man's destruction, devil's work, slowly being poisoned, eater of the dead. But I feel like this is one of those black metal albums that has the snarl or the oomph or the muscle that a death metal album does, and it really works well and all comes together well on this record. Probably my favorite Gehenna record, I would say. And I feel like it's often overlooked when people are reaching out for the more obscure Norwegian black metal bands, just kind of for notoriety or posturing or whatever, where this is really the bread and butter of where it's at for their discography. Albums that they did after that WW, that was fucking weird. Frost played drums on that, and then Unravel I think was another one. Next I've picked out Korova Kill with their album Waterhells. Now I guarantee you can find this in at least 3 distros out there for less than $3. So if you're at all curious about hearing this record, by all means look it up. I think this is one of the most hated albums there is. I don't know if it's hated or if it's just like looked over, glossed over, or forgotten. No one really knows what this is. It's got some really boring artwork. I can't blame anyone for looking at this and just going, oh, whatever. Pat from Ground Zero Salem just did a good video today where he talked about missteps or albums that bands kind of fucked up and did a bad job on, but they're still lovable in a way. This is a pretty good candidate for that. Now what this is a band called Korova out of Austria. Did 3 full lengths, Fist in the Charnel Fields, Waterhells, maybe just 2. Dead Like an Angel. No, this is Waterhells. I'm really losing my mind here. 2 full lengths, and they changed their name to Korova Kill, and I never really understood why, because this does kind of fall in line with the style of those other records. In fact, I think this might be a little bit more down-to-earth, accessible, and normalized than those other Korova albums. Those Korova albums are just straight-up avant-garde bonkers. In fact, the main guy in this band is the webmaster of a really good web zine called avantgardemetal.com. Anyways, so this has a new drummer. This is the guy who would go on to play on the newer Abigor records. So you know that guy is a fucking speedy demon. I feel like at the time this was quite a leap of faith for a lot of listeners to get into, so I'm sure it didn't find any success for its time. But I feel like we're all grown-ups now. We can listen to something like this without having any real strings attached. Weird booklet here. This definitely never made it to LP. Since it came out in like 2001 and CD copies are still sitting in distro out there. But yeah, such a weird band. After this, the guy went on to do another band called Christ, which is a solo project. But yeah, check this out. It's super fucking weird. It's Austrian, incestuous with Abigor, like I said. And speaking of incestuous with Abigor, lastly, I'm going to talk about Amestigon. I may have brought this up in a really early video because this came out in 2015 and I was on it like a fly on a banana peel that's just been flipped out of the van window on 7th Street across from drugs. Anyways, this is a fantastic fucking release. It is available on LP. World Terror Committee put this out. Trying to think of comparisons. I guess I would say I don't really listen to bands that are similar to this because in a lot of ways it's kind of a milquetoast sort of black metal record. It's like if you want to put it into a category, but it's a standalone, brilliant masterpiece on its own. Vocals by Protector from Celestia and early Abigor records, and the guitar player, I think he sang on Abigor's demos. Not that that's really even relevant to the style that this is, but I think the closest reference I could make is maybe Batushka, which is a band I don't really even care for. Maybe a little bit of similarities with Mugla, but the breadth and the scope and just the vastness of these songs is incredible. It's a well-produced record, produced by the guitar player, songwriter, guy. I can't think of his name. But yeah, this is super bass heavy. It's just got a lot of spatial breath to it. And killer atmospheric fucking record. It's just one of those things where you just kind of like slowly bow your head and raise your invisible orange as it crushes you. And it varies in speed from super slow and just awesomely vast to really claustrophobic and just kind of squeezing all the air out of you with super hyper fast blasting kind of parts. So there's a lot of variety to the listening in this album, so I highly recommend checking out Their, Their. I don't understand what the album title is about. It's got 4 songs that are all at least 12 minutes long, so it's really just a hugely epic listen. And I probably should have picked this first because I really want you to listen to this one. If you only choose one album from this video, I'm going to say Amestigon. There. It is right up your alley no matter where your fucking alley lies. Appreciate you subscribing and watching and sticking with me no matter how fucking weird I am right now. We'll see you next time. Peace out.